What's up, my friends? Thank you so much for tuning back in. Today, I have the chance to sit down with my very first modeling agent and a woman that I greatly respect. She started modeling as a teenager and now runs the very successful Agency Arizona. She's always been so much more than an agent to me, and I'm excited for you guys to get to know this amazing boss lady. So please welcome Terri Camberlango. I am so excited for today's episode because I am interviewing somebody that I have admired and looked up to for my entire modeling career. She was the first agent to take a chance on me and really take off my career. I wouldn't be who I am without her, and I'm really excited for you guys to get to know her. So Terri, thank you so much for coming.
Absolutely. Thanks so much for that intro.
Of
It's
course.
so thoughtful.
I know. I just love you to death, and I'm excited for people to
likewise.
get to know you. So tell me a little bit about you. How'd you get started in this industry?
I was started in this modeling world when I was 14 years old.
Oh, wow.
So I was on the other side of it as a model and modeled here like in Arizona locally and then just traveled from there. As
Okay.
I grew up in the industry.
That's huge.
Yes.
And did you move outside of Arizona to model?
I did. During like the summers of high school, I would travel to Europe. And after I graduated, I went to Europe.
Wow.
And yeah,
Where in Europe?
Milan, Madrid, and Athens.
That's incredible.
Yes.
What a cool opportunity.
It was a cool
And who were you
opportunity.
signed with?
I was signed with, God, the agencies aren't even like around anymore. It's so long ago.
But hey, that's okay.
We're talking some time ago. So like Ricardo Guy was one agency that I was with in Milan, and
Wow.
all those agencies are no longer. But
And were you scouted when you were 14?
my mom took me in
Wow.
when I was 14.
Okay. And
Yeah.
it just kind of took off from there?
It did. I mean, it wasn't a takeoff. It was a slow process.
Yeah.
But,
But that's okay. Coming from Arizona to be able to travel to Europe.
yes.
Pretty
yeah.
cool.
And to be able to do that at such a young age,
Yeah.
and no other circumstance would I do that. So.
Absolutely. How do you think modeling affected you as a 14-year-old? Was it just fun or did you take it very seriously?
I took it seriously. I mean, I didn't really completely get it, but I took it seriously and I was excited about it and it was fun. It was also, there's just so many emotions that come with it too. Like I had to
Totally.
navigate communicating with adults and, organizing my schedule and being on time and being professional and all those things. And then also all of those feelings of, being on set, like doing this right.
Yeah.
Like dealing with confidence issues and all of those things that come along with it.
And tell me about that, because I feel like as a 14-year-old, your confidence, you're just trying to learn who you are as a person, and then you add modeling on top of it. How did your confidence hold up? Like, how do you think you felt at that time?
I think, overall, it was a really amazing experience for me modeling. So I had, positive experiences for sure with the industry.
Yeah.
A lot of lessons learned for sure. But I think, I have teenage daughters now. So, did I deal with, I remember the first time, like my very first shoot, it was a photographer who really didn't speak much. So I'm like, am I doing this right?
Yeah.
I'm moving
You have
and
no
nervous.
feedback?
And yes, just like a scared little chinchilla inside, and super nervous.
Yeah.
So, all of those things would roll through my head, if, do I look good enough? Am I doing the movement right? Am I giving them what they need? Those types of things. But it really helped me grow up. And again, even just the opportunity to travel and go to different markets, which I normally, and as I said, no other circumstance would have been able to do. Just the navigating through, like the beyond the modeling side of it, just navigating through a new country. And
Totally. And you went, how old were you when you first went to Europe?
I was 15, 16.
And you were alone traveling
Yes,
there.
yeah.
So you really had to grow up quick and be aware of your surroundings.
Absolutely.
And try and figure out how to get to point A to point B, even to a casting. I feel like that would be tough as a 16-year-old.
Oh, for sure. I remember my first time, I think, going away, I had like a crazy amount of castings, even that first day, just as I landed. And I remember the agency telling me they were disappointed in me because I didn't make them all. And I was so naive. Like, I didn't know the language. I didn't know how to get around. I just thought, I'm going to go here and be taken care of and people are going to drive me around and get me to where I need to be. And it was like, whoa, I got there and it hit me right then and there.
I'm sure.
Of what was ahead of me.
Where did you live?
I lived, so the first time I had gone to Europe, I was in, Madrid. And I lived with the agency owner and 2 other seasoned models.
Wow.
So I didn't even have the new gang to cruise around with.
No, you're with some pros at that point.
I was with pros. Yes.
That's amazing. Well, it makes you a better model, I'm sure. Maybe.
Well, I mean, they were totally on a different trajectory than they were booking, and I was going through
Just
the casting kind of momentum. So it was a different journey for me. They were already established and working. So it would have been nice to kind of meet those younger girls, to have that experience and to go in groups to castings, just to get my feet wet with it.
Yeah, and see some familiar faces.
Yeah, and then know there's some other girls going through exactly what I'm going through too.
Yeah, because it's pretty devastating just for any new model to be going to these castings and hoping that you're booking, and you're going to so many and then you don't book. And
it's more often than not, right?
Yeah, exactly. So how did you handle that as a kid, where you're like, okay, I'm not booking, I'm here for work, but I'm not working?
I think I handled it pretty well. I mean, it's still, I really hope I get this, those types of
course,
that inner dialogue. But I think I handled it well because I knew it wasn't just me. Those huge cattle calls, they're picking a couple girls. It
is kind of what it is. That's the way it goes.
Yes.
But it sounds like you had a strong sense of self even then, because I feel like a lot of people get crumbled by those experiences and by not booking, where you're just kind of like, it's part of it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think I can also attribute it to just being completely naive and jumping straight in.
Hey, that's a good thing.
For sure.
It worked in your favor.
I don't know if it was because I was super well adjusted or any of that type of stuff. I just think it was mostly just being naive.
And that's okay.
Totally. It worked.
Yeah,
so,
totally. Yeah. And how long did you model for?
I modeled for 18 years.
18 years.
Yeah, right around there.
Wow. And then did you move back to Arizona full time when you decided to stop, or was this always home base?
It was always home base for me, but I decided to stop when I was after modeling in San Francisco. Decided to stop after that, and then came back, and after my daughters, decided to model just for a little bit, a short period again.
Wow. How cool.
Yeah.
And did anything happen that made you feel like I'm ready to kind of end this chapter?
Well, that first time, I just wanted to be done. It was, I wanted to wear my hair the way I wanted to wear it. I dyed it blonde, which was a terrible mistake.
I would love to see you as a blonde.
It's not a good look.
I would love it. We need photos.
Fortunately, there aren't any, so that's good. Yeah, and so I was just kind of at a place of I want control of how I look, and not to have to worry about that stuff anymore.
And around what age was that?
And that was, 21, 22.
Okay. Yeah. Gotcha. And then how did the agency Arizona become your baby?
That was in 2007.
Wow.
Which doesn't feel like that long ago.
Yeah.
It's
oh my gosh. And did you know that that's what you wanted to do when you quit modeling? Wanted to? No? So how did you fall into this?
I went to culinary school after I took a break from modeling.
No way.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. So then how did you end up here?
That's when I got back into modeling after my kids. And I'm this is fun. I get to have adult conversations and get my makeup done and see these beautiful collections. And so started modeling again, and then decided I wanted to transition onto this end of it.
Wow. And when you transitioned, what was your initial starting? Because you didn't create the agency Arizona.
I didn't, no. Okay. So Margaret, still a very dear friend of mine, created it. And I, again, came on 2007 on this side of it, and just really learned from her and the rest of the crew that was there. And I'm still learning.
Yeah. But it's been some time.
It's been some time.
And you were a agent to begin with?
No, I started going to each one of the divisions, but I was mostly during that beginning stage on new faces and development. So
wow. And I think it's cool that you've seen the other side as well, because there's a lot of agents that have never modeled that I think in some cases that makes it so that they can't totally relate with some of the things that we're going through.
It's definitely nice having that perspective of I see the young girls now and I'm I know those feelings.
Yeah, totally. And I think you were my saving grace when I started, because I thought that I had to have it figured out. I thought I was supposed to know what to do. Mm-hmm. And nobody really hands you a rule book of how to become a model. It's kind of just you keep going to castings, you keep trying, you keep showing up, you keep getting better.
Absolutely.
And without you kind of coaching me through that, I don't think I would still be modeling, to be completely honest.
I'm glad you are.
I know, me too.
Yeah.
Me too.
But it's so much of it is timing. And it's also, the industry's evolved so much.
Yeah.
And, still is continuing to evolve, which is wonderful.
Yeah. Do you think that the agency or the industry today is much different than it was 20 years ago?
Oh, yes, 100%.
Really? Good. In a positive way?
In a positive way,
Okay.
yeah. It's really, I think, opened up. There's so many more opportunities, I think, too.
Yeah.
It used to be very standard of height requirements and size requirements, and things have really evolved and grown, which is wonderful to see.
Totally. I feel like even in the past 6 years that I've been modeling, I've seen it kind of shift. Mm-hmm. Even when it comes to sizes, more sizes are represented than ever before.
Absolutely.
Which I think is really beautiful.
Me too.
And when I first met you, I was 19. So that was, 7 years ago when you first met me? Oh my gosh, 7 years ago. And from when you first met me to now, I feel like I'm a very different person, just in the way that I view myself. Because in the beginning, when I started modeling, it was all about my size. Like, as long as I was small enough, then I would be successful. And I remember going through the Miss Arizona USA experience, and when I came off, you asked me, like, how are you feeling? Like, where's your head at? Mm-hmm. And I just remember saying, like, I just need a break. And not one time in that break did you push me. And I think that's really special. And I wonder on the back end, why didn't you push me? Did you know that I needed that time?
Yeah, and I think for me, it's so much more about, human connection. And this industry is amazing, but at the end of the day, it's modeling. The individuals are more important. And knowing that everybody has their own journey and, struggles within this business, it really is, more about the individual for me than it is about numbers or getting the recognition of certain things or the accolades. It really is about the individual.
And I think that's what makes you so special. Because I think a lot of people have lost touch, at least from what I'm seeing in New York now, is that it's a lot more that you're kind of just a face on a board. And I never felt that way here. And I think that that's really special that you've honed in on that. And I'm curious your perspective on mental health when it comes to young models or established models. Do you see models having to go through a period where they have to learn to focus on their mental health before their physical health?
Yes, it's so individualized based on each girl, really. And it's hard just beyond modeling. It's even just young girls right now, having daughters myself. It's hard to see, kids go through these different emotions and social media and comparing themselves and thinking they need to be a certain way. And it's tough, I think, being young right now, because there's, social media is a beautiful thing, but it's also just, you're constantly seeing what you're missing out on, or all of the good bits of everybody's life, but not the reality of it.
Totally. And do you think social media has changed the modeling industry in a way?
Yes. Yeah.
In
absolutely.
a positive way or a negative way?
Both.
Yep.
Yeah. I think it's the comparativeness that happens, or girls comparing themselves in different kind of avenues, which there's, as there's room for everybody in this industry to book. I mean, it is timing, but there really is, it's evolved to that. So where a girl may not have the Chanel show, she'll have, a totally different stream and revenue line of something different. And that's what's beautiful about where it's gone. And I think it's just people understanding that, like, you didn't get selected for this, but there's also this for you.
Totally.
So knowing that there's so many different types of clients out there.
And I think it comes to patience a lot on both ends. Just because I know that there's times where there's different trends that are going on that I may not just fit into that trend at that time.
Absolutely.
And I think that took me a long time to come to terms with.
Yeah.
Like, you're not always going to be everything to everybody.
No. And I wish girls could know that straight off the top. Yeah. Like, I tell them that. Sometimes it's just they wanted the blonde instead of the brunette, or vice versa, or whatever it may be. It's not so personalized. Like, it's not, and I felt that too. Like, oh God, I really hope I do get this. And does this client not like me anymore? Whatever it may be. when it really could just be something as simple as that, or this collection came in looking like this, we need more of this type of model. So just knowing to never take it personally, but it's easier said than done.
So much easier said than done.
And I'm very much like, even in my parenting style, which I'm working on, is, like I'm solution based, like fast forward parenting of like, I don't want you to go through the stress or being hurt. So here's how it is. Like, just fast forward to here's your solution. Don't take it personally. When really the girls have to learn that on their own.
Have to experience that, even though it's painful.
I know.
It's very painful.
I wish they could just avoid it.
Right? I know. I wish we could all just avoid it. But I think that when you go through that, it makes you so much stronger as a person. Because I still take things personally. And I think it took a long time for me to be like, this casting director is not meaning to be malicious to me. Like, this wasn't designed to hurt my feelings. It's business for them.
Absolutely.
And I think that that's really hard for people to wrap their minds around, which I'm sure you've seen.
Absolutely. And to think too, like, that casting director does want you to succeed. Like, they want to book the show, book the job, whatever it may be, and then move on to the next.
Yeah.
But I think we as individuals just take everything so personally, and it's easy too. I mean, this is an industry where you are the product. So you're taking it personally because it's you. It's you. Yes.
And I think that's the hardest part, is that it's like, it literally is you, and you can only change yourself so much. But I think you need to be able to have the confidence that whether you do or don't succeed in some jobs, you can still know that your own self-worth is there. Mm-hmm. And I think that's a very difficult thing for new models. Mm-hmm. I think maybe it gets easier over time. Do you agree with that?
I think it gets easier over time. I think some of it too is just personality. Like, I see some kind of young ones come in and they just don't really care. And those are the girls that do so well. When they don't care. Like,
that's amazing. I wish you could teach that.
I wish that too. It's those seem to be the girls that just, because they come in with confidence, or the girls that are more seasoned that have that confidence already, that understand, not to take things personally. So they're not going in with that ball of nerves. So then they can really drop their guard down and show off their personality.
That's amazing, and that's what shines.
It is.
Do you think that personality really has a lot to do with this industry, even though it's very looks-based?
Yes, because I think that there are so many beautiful faces. It really, at the end of the day, comes down to personality and connectivity.
Totally. And you kind of teach that to your models, right, when they sign on, don't you?
I
you did
to.
With me. And it definitely stuck. But I remember taking the full year off and then coming to you and being like, hey, Terri, moving to New York. Can you help me? And you were like, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I haven't seen you in a year, but sure, let's do it. It's going to be amazing.
And it all worked out.
And look at us now. And it was quite the journey. And like, the thing that I love so much about you is that I've been able to pick up the phone or email you at any time, and you're very solution based. That it's like, okay, here's the problem, here's what they probably meant, here's your solution, and we move forward.
Yes.
And I think that's really, really special. And thank you for that, because you've saved me a lot of sanity. But for new models coming in, is there something that you're looking for? I know it's not, everybody is different, but is there that it factor that you see when they walk in the door that you're like, yes, we can work with you?
Yes. I mean, a lot of it is personality based, as I said before. So, if they come in and they're connected and connecting with us, of course it is like, look at that bone structure, or, beautiful hair, whatever it may be. But also, when we connect with a personality, that makes a world of difference. Because we know that our clients will as well. And it's also who we want to work with.
Absolutely.
We tend to, and I think also the older I've gotten, of course, as you would imagine, we deal with some interesting personalities in this industry, and we really want to keep it just even for our own sanity. It could be for selfish purposes too, but
that's okay.
We want to work with pleasant, engaging talent. That's what it's about for us at the end of the day. So if we've got a mom coming in that's a bit of a stage mom and comparing her daughter to others on our board or whatever it may be, we'll work with it, and we'll try to make it work, and we'll try to explain, why one model booked something and not the other, and whatever the reasons are. But at some point too, if we see that happening, we just cut ties.
Which makes sense. And I think there's a lot of situations that happen that you don't get an explanation from. Like, I know even with me personally, I went and met with agencies in New York, and they'd call you and just say, it's just not a good fit. And I'd ask you a million questions, and you're like, I can't read into what they're looking for right now. I wish I could give you the answers, but it's just not a good fit right now. And that's not to discourage you. It's to encourage you to go on to something else. You don't want to be with an agency that doesn't want to represent you.
Yeah.
But it's still so discouraging thinking like, well, what did I do wrong? And I think a lot of the times you have to like be okay with not knowing those things.
Definitely. Because if you are you're very driven. So I see for you why you would say like, well, what can I do? What can I improve
what
upon?
can I change?
But in some cases, it's like, well, maybe they had, other blondes on their board and they just didn't want to add one more to the mix so it wouldn't compete with who they already have. Like there's so many different variables.
Yeah.
But it is, I think at some point you've just got to say, okay, it is what it is.
It
on
is
to
what
the
it
next.
is. And I think that's where like you really have to focus on your confidence coming from your inner confidence instead of looking for outside validation. And that comes for the modeling industry and everything else. And I'm sure since you have young girls growing up with social media right now, and are they modeling as well?
My oldest is right now. Yeah.
What's that like as a mom and as an agent looking at that? Can you give her advice on things to avoid, or are you just kind of letting her have her experience?
She has her experience. I'll give her advice too, but for the most part, she has her experience, and she's so involved in other areas of her life that it's not something that she's totally honed in on. To where, when I was younger, it was something that was, primarily what I did.
Yeah.
I didn't have sports. Well, I did it in the early years, but didn't have sports that really took up time. So it was, school and modeling were my two things.
Yeah.
But I connect with her on it, but it really isn't something that she's super focused on. I mean, she enjoys it and loves it and appreciates it, but doesn't kind of overthink it, which is good.
That's really, really awesome. And how many kids do you have? Remind me.
Oh gosh.
There's so many.
It's 6 total. So yes.
Wow. So how do you balance all these different areas of your life? Because you're not just one label. Like you have so many parts of you. How do you make sure that all is cohesive and make sure that you're happy and your mental health is at the forefront?
I know. I listen to a lot of podcasts.
Good.
I've been all about the Brene Brown lately.
Okay.
Yes. Love. So I think it really is just trying to find that balance, which is at times impossible.
Yeah.
But I do think that having kids and a large family also helps me with, as I've evolved on this side of this industry as an agent, just having a better understanding of how kiddos operate, and because I can think back to how it was for me, which I sometimes do, but that was so long ago. It's nice for the kids to represent it for me.
Totally.
As well. Yeah.
And if you could go back and give yourself advice as a new model in Europe, knowing in hindsight, what would you tell her?
I'd just say relax. It's all going to be okay.
Yeah.
And
that's huge.
Life tends to work out that way too, where if we could just relax. I think I overthought things and I worried. Mm-hmm. Almost, a little bit the older I got with it. I mean, not towards the tail end, but you go through different phases in your life. And I remember even just being, when I was in the later years of modeling, being like, gosh, I hope I get that show, talking with the other girls and super nervous that I wasn't going to book a show.
Yeah.
And if you just step back, it's a show. I mean, so I think if I could tell myself anything, it would just be relax and it's all going to be okay. But, that's something I need to tell myself last week. So it's not like...
Yeah, exactly. It's constantly a work in progress.
It's constantly a work in progress. It's a practice,
and
for sure.
What do you implement for your mental health today?
I try to meditate as often as I can.
Okay. That's amazing.
Thank you.
I need to start meditating. I try, and then I wander. And then I
Well, I
try.
do. Yeah. I'm like, gosh, I'm sitting there meditating and I'm overthinking the meditation.
I do that all the time.
I'm like, why am I? And then I'm thinking, why am I overtaking? Like, you just think about, okay,
Yeah.
my breathing, is this right? My breath work.
Is this right? I'm breathing too fast. What's happening? And then you're like, I have so many other things to do.
Totally.
That's me every time. And so I'm like, how do I like hone in? Because the people that implement meditation as a fundamental part of their mornings are different people. They're so much more calm and relaxed and can look at things much more clearly, which I'm sure you've experienced. How did you get into it, and how has meditation changed your life?
Well, I got into it. I go back to using like apps. Like, thank goodness for technology,
right?
too. So I'll use, there's the Breathe app. I know there's multiple other ones when I kind of go far off of it, because it helps guide me a bit with the meditation. So I've been doing that for a bit, and I've been doing yoga as well. Not as much as I'd like to.
Yeah. You're a little busy.
Yes.
Just a little.
But I need to get going on a practice that's more of a routine.
Yeah, I hear you. I'm a very routine-oriented person. I need it to function.
Yes.
And what has your relationship always been like when it comes to your diet and exercise, knowing that you have to always be well aware of your appearance in this industry?
Well, I think I'm off the hook a little bit with not being in front of the camera. So, but I've always, I think I grew up with my mom cooking amazing food. So I've always been into just real food.
Okay.
And even for the girls, like, I tell them the same thing that I try to live by, and it's eating nutrient dense food, which I'm not always great at, but that's my intention.
Yeah.
Drinking water, which I could also be better at, as you see my big iced tea here. My big old iced tea.
There's water in there.
There's water in there.
Right? It counts.
And just taking care of yourself. And I think that's also what I relay to the talent is, we never ask anybody to lose weight. We never tell them, here's like, I don't care about measurements anymore. Like, I don't care what their measurements come in at. It's drink a lot of water, eat nutrient-dense food, take care of yourself, and the chips will fall where they may, but at least you know that you're doing everything right.
And
on
that you're
that
healthy.
side. And healthy. And it really is just for sanity reasons, or healthcare of just, let's say you're flying all over the world working. You need to have healthy food in your system.
It's really cool that you focus on that.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, because it's important. I mean, not being able to get all those nutrients, it does take a toll on you, and it does affect your work.
It does.
And the way you view the job, I think. Because if you restrict yourself so much for the job, it's not sustainable. And you can't be in this industry for a long period of time.
No. And the older we get, we realize that. I mean,
know, right?
I say that now,
like
but I remember living in Europe, and I was not eating nutrient-dense food. I was drinking a lot of coffee, smoking cigarettes. But I just that's what all the cool models do.
That is what all the cool models do.
Yeah. And I'm so glad that's not, I don't think that's the case anymore.
Not as much.
And thank goodness it's not, because it's not great
so
for your
bad
skin.
for you.
That's not good for anything.
Yeah. It's really not.
No.
But hey, I guess that's what...
That was the thing 20 years ago. We've evolved from that.
We've evolved.
Hope.
I sure hope so too. I don't know what it's like in Europe, but I hope so. And so even now, you sign models of all shapes and sizes, and you would treat a woman that's on the plus size board the same as the straight size board when it comes to nutrients and exercise.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, it's just about every individual being the best version of themselves.
Whatever that looks like.
Whatever that looks like.
That's really cool. And do you believe that there's work for everybody?
I do. And it's more so than ever. And do we have a ways to go? Absolutely. I think that's always going to be the case. There's always a need for evolution, but even just looking at where the industry's gone the last 5 years has been incredible.
It's crazy. Where do you see it in the next 5 years?
I just think it's going to continue with inclusive mentality. It's going to continue down that path, thank goodness. And it's interesting because I think our industry for so long was like exclusive, and and now that's not. That's not a good word in our industry anymore.
It's really not.
No.
And I think a lot of brands are trying to go towards more relatable aspects as well, because they don't just want the aspirational girl. They want somebody that people can relate to.
Definitely.
Which is pretty cool. I mean, you didn't see that 5 years ago.
You didn't see that 5 years ago. So I think that's really what people want to see is young girls who can relate or see somebody that's relatable to them.
Yeah.
It's still going to be, photoshopped here and there. And I think that's starting to,
Yeah.
But even earlier, like I was just in my office and we were looking at one of our girls posted something. We're like, why'd she Facetune her image
God.
on
sure
like
see that a
Instagram?
lot.
And she's so much prettier, just her regular face.
Yeah.
But I know, because even as like a woman in my 40s, it's do you have your days where you're not super confident or whatever that may be. So I understand it, but
yeah,
it's like, girl, you look so much better without that auto Facetune stuff that's going
and
on.
it's funny, we see people so differently than they see themselves.
Yes.
Where they think that they need to enhance all of these things when it's like your natural beauty is so much more beautiful. Growing up with social media, I feel like so many people just kind of go towards Facetune just to like do the Photoshop that normally would be done in a studio. And I see models now that will even take Photoshopped images and then Facetune them.
That's that's double time.
That's what I'm saying. I'm like, you're a completely different person at the end of it. And then I see the agents that are like, why are you doing that?
I know.
Like that's
we
not...
love you for your face, your actual face.
Right, your real face.
But I think we all need to say that more often too, because we've all felt the feels on the other side of that where we want to feel better about ourselves. Or I know young girls too, it takes them forever to post a picture on social media because they overthink it. And we're all our own worst critics. So maybe we just need to all tell each other how great we are more often.
Think so. I really think so. And I think
we all
that's for
think
all
it,
ages.
right? Like we just don't always say it.
And I think there's something so powerful about just telling somebody what you don't even know if they need to hear it or not. Like, you look beautiful today, or your natural beauty is incredible, or your makeup looks amazing. Like, stuff that that you're thinking it. Like, let's lift up other people. Definitely. I don't know why that's so difficult for us, but...
Yeah, I know. Well, we think about it in our heads. We just don't always say it out loud.
It just needs to come out. I don't know why that's a disconnect. So what would you say to somebody that has gone to multiple open calls and just can't seem to get signed and is very discouraged?
That's tough.
I know.
In some cases, I think really in all cases, it's just timing. So, perhaps it's just not your time in the industry, at this moment, but not to get discouraged. And let's say that, one agent's not right for you, maybe another agency is. Yeah. So continue to search on that level. And then maybe also realize that if you're not getting bites on in any different market, there's so many different avenues in this industry. And that's the beautiful part of social media, right? Where it's like, you can be an influencer and maybe not right for a board, a print board or runway or whatever it may be, but you can kind of create your own image and your own brand and build something individually.
And do you find that influencers are getting booked similar to how models used to be booked exclusively?
Yes. And then I think in some cases they're getting kind of larger deals rolling through because they've created something different and unique. And I think that's what clients want to see. That's what other agents want to see. Kind of back to what we had spoke about previously, there's so many beautiful faces. So it is personality, but also what sets you apart.
Yeah.
Do you like to cook? Do you surf? Whatever it may be, and then showcasing, that's the beauty of social media, is that the talent gets to showcase that. So now clients are vetting or, looking at all of the social media outlets that our talent has. Almost in some cases, it could be more important than a book.
Yeah. How crazy.
It's crazy.
Who would have thought?
At every major agency now, you have access to that talent's Instagram.
Mm-hmm. Which is so crazy. And I'm like, it's cool for a lot of people that wouldn't have had those opportunities otherwise. Mm-hmm. And for a lot of top models, it's cool that you get to see who they are behind the photo.
Definitely.
I find that very, very cool.
Yeah.
And you have some big names that you represent.
Thank you.
Good for you. You're like, yeah, I know.
We love our talent. We're super fortunate on that level just to have amazing talent.
Well, you had a good eye and spotted them in little Arizona.
That's right. Little Daisy. There's been a lot of amazing careers that have been cultivated out of Arizona. We've just been lucky to be a part of it.
Yeah. Well, you guys are at the forefront of it. And I'm very, very glad to be with you guys. You're amazing.
Thank you so much.
Well, thanks again for coming. I love you.
I love you too.
So there you have it. I hope you got just as much out of this episode as I did. I would love to hear your thoughts and your feedback on our most recent Instagram post. Remember, you are more than whatever label has been placed upon you. We hope you feel empowered and inspired. We'll see you next week.